October meeting to order with salute to the flag, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, get started this evening. We have a couple brief presentations. One, I mentioned both of these last month about the STAR registration program, a re-registration program, and a recap of the townwide reval process, reassessment process. First tonight, I'd like to welcome two people here tonight. One is our new assessor, which many of us know, maybe a lot of people don't, but they should by now, Cheryl Casaluga. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Be here for the reassessment reval process, and Mr. Bob Jacobs from ORPS, Office of Real Property. He came down here to do the presentation for us, so I appreciate both of you joining us tonight and going over both of these presentations. I'd like to start with Bob, if you want to start right off with the reassessment recap.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So you're getting two presentations tonight. First of which is on the reassessment. It's being done for 2014 for the town of Clermont. Second one, which I'll go over later and which people have already been accosting me about, is STAR. And I'll not only give the presentation, but if you want to sign up, I'll be in that room afterwards and I can help people register. So, first thing first, which is the reassessment project for the town of Clermont. You all have a brief handout. And basically, when is this going to affect you? So 2014 reassessment. This means it will affect you for your school bills in September of 2014. And then for your town and county bills, which come out December 31st, 2014, early January 2015. So that's when you will feel this. Now, when I say you will feel this, fortunately, most of you will not feel very much, and I'll go into the reasons for that. I just want to briefly go over what a reassessment is, which is on the first page. And a lot of this I'll try to simplify because otherwise people tend to glaze over. But systematic analysis of an entire assessment roll to maintain uniformity. Well, what does that mean? In New York State, you cannot just take, say, in one community, the farms, or take a new subdivision and just look at that and just reassess that for a year. That's called welcome stranger, and it's illegal. Not illegal in some other states, but it is here. So what you have to do a recognized reassessment is to systematically analyze the assessments of an entire community. And it says to maintain uniformity, and that's the whole idea behind this. With this type of taxation, unlike sales tax, unlike any other tax, it's based on the value of your property. So, if it's not assessed fairly, if you don't have the data correct, then it's not going to mean that much. I remember there's this guy up north in the Adirondacks, and when places don't do reassessments, which is not the case here, we have to go around and appraise properties so the state can get some idea of what the town is worth. And he owned a real estate office, and I was talking to him, and there was no data in the town. on his property. And he said, is this legal? I mean, how does he know? How does the assessor know what my property is worth? I said, well, it's a good question. You know, so that's why the town goes to so much trouble through the assessor, Cheryl in this case, to go out and get data, because that's what, you know, what's there. Is it a ranch? How big is it? Are there garages? Are there decks? This all goes into the value of it, and by value, it's what it would sell for between a willing buyer and a willing seller. So, and that involves a lot of work. So, the assessor, or the contractor, the assessor in this case, obtains current inventory and market data, which is what's been happening for over the past, 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And it's also, it's not like your inventory has just been let go. I mean, you did a full-scale reassessment in 2010. And a lot of times what happens when that is the case, town will do a reassessment, the assessor will say, I'm exhausted, I don't want to get near this stuff again. The town board will say, you know, all my neighbors are mad at me, whatever, I don't want to think of this again. They don't do anything to continue that reassessment, to maintain the inventory, to maintain the values. That's not the case here. You had an assessor, Hank Greenhouse, who recently deceased, who did really keep things up and worked very hard at it and decided that, and not just Hank, but a lot of assessors in Columbia County, which is fairly unusual, to keep things at full value. Because otherwise, the values, you would have been assessing at 110%, 115%. You're not supposed to do that. So after the full-scale reassessment in 2010, Hank made sure to keep things up. So that, and he worked with me, he worked with the county recently, so that the values would stay at 100%. So the state would say, okay, you're still valuing at full value, which is another term for 100%. So that's been happening, but that wasn't a full-scale reassessment. You can do that, you don't get state aid for it. But it means that you look at all the information that you have on your computer about all the values in the town. You maybe go around and look, you can't, you know, without doing a full-scale reassessment, get around, even if you have fewer than 1,000 parcels, it's hard for one person to get out and really look at everything that's going on, new additions, you know, new decks, whatever, anything like that, conditions of houses, as Cheryl's been saying at our status meetings where we talk about this, they change. Over the years, things really change. So we do allow people to systematically look through the information on the computer to adjust things. You don't get state aid for it, but that's what's been happening for 2011, 2012, and now 2013. So you've kept it at full value, 100%. But over the years, you haven't been able to go out and look at all the inventory, and just because of the market, things are uneven. Maybe one school district becomes a little more valuable than another. You know, things change. So since all the taxes are based on the values, it's necessary to go out, which is what the town is doing in 2014, look at all the properties at the same time, value them from the same point in time, using the same sales from the same period of time. And that's what we're doing. That's not what I'm doing, but that's what Cheryl and, you know, with Ray's help and with help from the county. So that's basically the deal, what's going on. And they use, says appropriate valuation methods. Well, they use the best methods that they can to figure out what the market value is. In this case, they're using a model based on sales. So, you know, if you got the same house, pretty much the same, which is difficult in a rural setting, but you can kind of work around that. And one has an attached garage, one doesn't. Well, then you start to figure out what makes the difference in the values of those properties. Now, none of this, unfortunately, is an exact science, where you plug in the numbers and you get one figure that you can definitely hang your hat on. I was just talking with Cheryl about that. She's done everything in Clermont. So she's collected all the data. She's going to be determining all the values. She's going to determine if the condition of the house is normal, average, or fair, or good, which makes a big difference in value. But when you have, say, 3 different people doing that, you can, you know, you're going to have more variation. But anyhow, are there any questions about that? That's the gist of what the whole process is about. So these are the tasks, and the task and the schedule, some of it will be repetition, but basically public information. What I'm doing tonight, we talked about having 2 public information meetings. Tonight, when we're still in the process of data collection, although Cheryl has completed collecting the data on all but one property, almost all the properties. But part of this is also feedback from everybody else. She's got all the data. She will then, at the beginning of November, send out something called the data mailer, which some of you might be familiar with. This is just sent to your home, and it's got, is this your house? It's a ranch. It's this many square feet. This is what, you know, wood exterior siding, 3 bedrooms. You got a deck in back, and you should take the time to look that over. And is this correct? If it's not, and if you think it's significant, then you've got about 3 weeks where you can either send it in or just call Cheryl and say, you know, I think we have a disagreement here. I know you came out to my house, but I'd like you to come out and take a look again, because I think you're off. And I've done this myself when I own my own home. Said, you're wrong on the square footage, and it's not really a complete finished basement. And they're pretty good about that. So, and I'm sure she will be. If that's the case, if it's not, you know, if she has your house as 1,620 square feet and you have it as 1,610 square feet, well, it's not really worth your while. But if you want to call her up, you can. And we're going to have another meeting in about March, when there's something called change of assessment notices that will go out. And this is after Cheryl has determined the new values, and she'll send those out to people. And at that point, you'll be able to see, you know, well, have you gone up or have you gone down? And for Clermont, you're lucky because you've been at full value since 2010. And what that means, unlike places that, haven't kept things up and are 5% or 7.6% of full value, you'll know from those notices that, hey, my assessment has been 130,000 and now it's 156,000. So that, yes.
In the past, those notices have only been sent out to those that went up? Is that, now with the reval, is that required to go to everybody, or is it?
It's not required, but we just talked about this in a meeting yesterday,
Okay.
or the day before, I guess, on Tuesday. And while it's not required, the town decided that it would be a good idea to send them out to everybody because it is a full-scale reassessment.
Okay.
So even if your assessment goes down, you'll be notified of that, even if it doesn't change, just so you get some idea
Okay.
of what's happening. Because otherwise you're kind of, well, gee, my neighbor's got a notice, but I didn't get anything, and you're wondering what's going on. This way, at least you get it. Costs a little bit more, but I think it's worth it in something like this. Now, what you're not required to do, because the town has kept their assessment up, their full value up at 100%, you're not required to do something called a disclosure notice, which would have to go out to everybody, which would say, based on the tax rates for town, county, and school from last year, based on the assumption that they will not change, and based on your old assessment and your new assessment, here's what your new taxes will be. Well, you're not going to do this because you're not required to. And the problem with that is that the rates never stay the same from year to year. And then people say, oh, good, I'm saving, $200 this year, and then school rolls come around, school bills, and they go up $200 because the school has raised their levy, and this gets around that because you're being rewarded for keeping your roll up and staying at 100%. So you'll be able to tell from these notices, and we will have a meeting then. So let's just go through the process. A lot of this is done. Data collection and verification. Cheryl's been doing this for quite a while. All of it's done. She just has to enter all of it into the computer. She's got it on cards, but you want to make sure the cards and what's on the computer match. And when she's finished with that, about November 1st, she'll send a file into the county, they'll send it into the state, and we'll take that and we'll come out and do a sample recollect, which means we'll go around and check that things were collected correctly. We'll just do a sample, like 30 parcels. And then we'll report back.
Do you check the valuations at that time too? Or just
We
the
don't
data?
check the values at that time.
Okay, because I know in the past, there has been times when the state came out and did basically a sidewalk appraisal, and their values were running higher than what if you had based it on sales. This was a few years back.
All right, and that was when you guys hadn't done a reassessment for a while.
Probably.
Because we have to do that because you share school districts
Yeah.
and you share county apportionment and whatever, and you can say you're at 100% or 90%, but if
Yeah.
you're just saying that, you think you're there, but then you win out over the people in the next town. So that's why we have to do that. But in this case, which is good for us.
Yeah, it was being done to determine the equalization rate.
Right.
And what I determined in my analysis, and I went over with Hank, and he agreed and went to the state to try and get them to
Yeah.
change, because any parcel that was based on sales would have given us a higher equalization rate than the parcels that were done by the state, by their guess. Okay, it just seemed
Well-
like it wasn't some this way and some that way. It was in just about every case.
Let's say this, it's
But
much
that's history,
better.
that's history, so let's not, we don't have to
Well-
go there, but,
It's history, and now you don't have to put up with it anymore.
good.
Because when you're doing your own reassessments, it's local people looking at local values, and it's not that we don't check it out and use our own measurements against that, but if they're pretty close, say, hey, you guys must know, you're on the ground here, you know your market a lot better than we do, we don't live here, so we'll accept that, if it's within reason. And then you don't have to deal with that. I know I do some of that too,
Yeah.
and I'm often doing some project, some parcels in Shenango County. Like I know Shenango County, but that's how it has to be done.
Yeah.
So this is good because you get around that now.
Okay, good.
So you're gonna get your data mailers, all that will be entered. Any issues, Cheryl will be able to check that. Then she's also gonna check the sales, which she's been doing right along with the county valuation specialist, Rip Noblin. And she'll make sure those sales are right, because that's what's gonna be used to determine the value of your property. Comparable sales. They're gonna do some analysis of the market, although they know that pretty well, because they've been doing it for years. Rip has been doing this with Hank. So they got a pretty good grasp of it, it's just some fine tuning, because things have changed over the years. Then they'll do something starting in November called valuation, which is done through the computer, where you run things through and you set up parameters for like ranches this size, cottages this size, that have these attributes and whatever, and you come out with some values. And they're also run against some comparable sales, and the computer produces some sheets out of that valuation called comp sheets. And this will have your property and then 3 sales that are as close as possible to your property, and there'll be a value coming from that. But you just don't take what the machine says. She'll take those comp sheets and spend until January 1st, from sometime in November, going around to each property with a photo, with the comp sheets, with other information, and sitting in front of the property and saying, here's this value based on these sales and based on, the computer model. Is this really right compared to everything else around that? And usually, as an assessor doing this will make changes, minor ones perhaps, but some major, to about 60% of those properties. Then she'll get the final values, she'll put those on the file, and they'll be on the file, and before there's something called tentative roll on May 1st, she will send out these notices to everybody, change of assessment notices, which will say, if nothing's changed in your assessment, nothing's changed, it's the same from last year, it's gone down, that's great. Or if it's gone up, you can call Cheryl. You'll have about a 3-week period where you can call her and set up an appointment and come in, not just going in and saying, hey, this is unfair, I don't like the way you did it. You gotta bring in your own documentation. And if you do, and if she accepts it, fine. Then she can work out something called a stipulation with the change in the assessment, that goes to the Board of Assessment Review. If not, you go to grievance day, the regular deal that you go to at the end of May, and you can grieve it at that point. Once again, you need documentation. And if not that, and you've got a 1 or 2, 3-family home, you can also go to small claims and take it there if you're still not satisfied. And if you have a commercial property, you can go to certiorari state Supreme Court. So you got all these ways, if you don't like things, to really say, you know, to get some redress. Believe me, I now work in tax and finance for the past couple of years. I don't hear them being very, you know, saying, well, maybe we can work a deal out. No, here you got a lot more leeway really than other taxes.
Building
Do
8.
we know yet?
Yes. 8A. I was in building 8, yeah.
Do we know yet what the residential assessment ratio is for the coming year, so that we?
No,
because that
but it should be
But
100.
that, well, no, but if values change, because the last couple of years we've trended down.
Oh, you mean what the trends will be?
Yeah.
No, we really don't, but talking with Cheryl and with the county and with other assessors, I'm not expecting much of a change.
Okay.
It looks like things have flattened out, but I can't say we do our own analysis and it's based over 3 years. And that's something, you know, that I can't say for sure until it happens. But we try to really keep track of that and let you guys know as soon as possible. And she's got a pretty good idea.
Because I know nationwide, they're starting to talk about values going up again.
Right.
But in our area,
Nationwide is-
they've been still going
Right.
down a little bit. At least in Columbia County versus Dutchess County. Dutchess pretty much stayed the level, I think,
Yeah.
this past year. But Columbia County, or Clermont at least, went down about 4 or 5%.
It has been,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
Banks are holding some properties right off the market because of the loss they would take if they put them on the market.
Right, right. So
So the values would drop further if they were actually put on the
if
market.
they were actually put it on the
sold.
market, unfortunately, we just look at properties that have sold, and that's all we can really do. But, you know, the thing to, you know, everybody looks at the news and they say, oh, the properties are really dropping, or they're really going up all over the country. This is local markets.
Yeah.
It's really very local,
Right.
so you can't go by that. So I think I've covered most of this. Are there any questions? Or anything, Cheryl, that I've left out? All right,
I think that covers it pretty well. I mean, went through the entire process. You know, I think if anybody has any other questions, they could also come in and see Cheryl, the assessor, and talk to her about it.
sure.
We have a question?
The whole town's being reassessed at the same time this time, right?
Yes,
Fine.
yes. The whole town is being reassessed, and that's important because you can do systematic analysis and look at things through the computer.
Exactly.
But when you're going out and looking at everything parcel by parcel and doing it all from one date in time, what was the value of everything at that date in time? That makes a big difference. Then it's gonna be a lot fairer, in my
Yes.
opinion.
You might
Yes.
mention also that the date is July of the prior year,
July of the prior year.
which confuses some people, because they say, well, my house is worth this today, but
But,
that's not what we're
but
looking
we have to look at everything from the same point of time,
at.
because otherwise you're shifting things around. And even though it's a year back and using sales from a year back, you're doing it the same to everybody. And it keeps it consistent.
Perfect.
Good. Glad you're happy about it. So,
It's not always what they did.
no, it's not always, and I really have to commend most of
Great
this
job.
county. I've worked in a lot of different counties in this region, but people really try to do the right thing. And New York State doesn't force you to. In a lot of other states, they force you to do a reassessment and keep things at full value every 3 years. Or every 4 or 5 years. But, you know, we don't in this state, so it's voluntary, which I guess is the way that people want it, so, but it's good that you know, you can feel that you're getting a fair deal.
And I think a lot of the, excuse me, the credit does go back to our former assessor, Hank Greenhouse. He worked very hard on this. He felt very passionate about that we should be at 100%. I shared that passion with him because I thought it was the fairest way to have the equalist values throughout the town for everybody. And that's why we worked together very closely for the past 4 years to make sure it stayed at 100%. And also Cheryl coming in a little unexpectedly with the passing of Hank, a little prematurely, but she's come in the middle of this second reval, and she's done an outstanding job. She's, you know, a tremendous amount of work and responsibility dropped in her lap awful quick, and you know, I appreciate the work she's done and she's doing an absolutely great job on this, and we're lucky to have her. So
Thank you.
appreciate that. So Bob, I think you wrapped up everything. If anybody else has any questions, they can certainly come and see Cheryl, and
Sure.
or the town board or me or Mary, we can answer these questions. But sure. I appreciate the presentation tonight on this. I'd like to move on to the STAR presentation, because that's equally as important, I think, for a lot of people.
Yes.
So we'll set that up here in a second. Cheryl, I don't know if you want to hang around or not, but you don't probably need it after this one.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Template for this presentation that we're supposed to do, I would have said the Basic STAR re-registration program, because that's really what it is. This doesn't have to do with the Enhanced STAR. There are 2 stars. They are really state aid, and they're given out to, it's treated like an exemption. But the Enhanced STAR is about twice as much as the Basic STAR, but this really has to do with the Basic STAR. And it's a re-registration because most of you signed up years ago for the Basic STAR. The deal is, though, we have found through the controller did an audit and tax and finance did an audit, that there were a lot of people who, for one reason or another, were getting stars, Basic STARs that shouldn't get them, or were getting them on several properties, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. Up till around, I think, about $50 million. I'm not sure of the exact figure, but it was enough to get the governor's and the legislature's attention. So this is why we're having people sign up again. This should be a one-time deal. Once people are signed up, we should have the information on a database, be able to access it, and you shouldn't have to go through this again. Unless, and I'll get to this later, you buy a new house and you want to get the STAR. But if you're staying in your same house, you're all set. Oops, wrong way. All right, this is new legislation, and I've talked about most of it, but it covers 2.6 million people in the state get the Basic STAR exemption. And I've talked to more people, I think, who actually are seniors who are getting the Enhanced STAR exemption or should be getting it. What we're finding with this is that a lot of people should be getting the Enhanced but didn't really know about it. So now they're getting that and they say, oh, should I have been getting this veterans exemption too? And so you're picking up a lot of people who weren't getting exemptions that should, and you can say, oh, it's going to cost the town more money, but if there's an exemption there, people really should. If they're eligible, they should get it. You shouldn't hide it from them. Seniors were supposed to not be affected by this, but the assessor, as Cheryl will tell you, is getting most of the calls from seniors because they don't want to lose their exemption, and they, you know, what's going on? I mean, I didn't get a letter. My son and daughter got letters, but I didn't get letters, so they're calling the assessor. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. All property owners' questions should be directed, and this is really important. I was talking to you about this, I believe. I do the same thing. I know somebody in the agency, I said, okay, I'll send the stuff to you. It doesn't work. Everything has to go through this phone number. If you go on and you register, and it's nice and easy, which it has been, as Ray and lots of other people were saying, oh yeah, it takes 3 minutes. There's just my wife and I, just put the information in, boom, that's it. You're fine. If there's some sort of snag, then you gotta call that number. And we hired, I think, at least 120 new people for a call center, temporary hires, to answer these phone calls for the whole state. So sometimes there can be a wait on that, but it shouldn't be any more than 15 minutes to get through and get your questions answered. But that's the number to call. And that's on the sheet that I passed out. It's also on our website. And I'll talk about that later. And this is basically just the benefits provided by the Basic Star program actually go only to qualified homeowners, and they should, and this should eliminate intentional fraud and duplication. We have not been able to do this. When Star first came out, I was one of the people going around publicizing the program. And of course it came out as, well, gee, are people gonna be taking it on 2 homes, and there's gonna be some fraud here and whatever. And they thought about using a database to get this information, but it was, the databases were not up to it, the technology wasn't up to it, and we didn't have enough people. Now that we're in tax and finance, it can be done, and it's being done. So, the way this works, and a lot of this has already happened, we got the assessment rolls, final rolls in 2013, back in July. Everybody that had a Basic Star had a unique code assigned to their property and got a letter. If you got a letter, and everybody here should, although like, it's not perfect, like Cheryl said, all their neighbors got them, she and her husband didn't get it, they've been living there for 2 years with a Basic Star, but they still didn't get it. I mean, it's a lot of people. But most people should have gotten that, and by the way, she was still able to go online with this process I'll show you later and register with no problem. So, the letters have gone out. You got a star code and how to register. And for those of you that have done it, it's pretty easy. How many here have done that? Where it's just, yeah, wasn't hard, right?
It's very simple.
I did it
Good.
last week and it took me 3 or 4 minutes. It was-
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's what I've heard from most people. I was out at a school out in Mayfield a week ago, and everybody said, oh, we took care of that. You know, so I was sitting there like the Maytag repairman, and nobody was coming by. But it's because it's been taken care of. Property owners, you can also register on that website again, with that phone number. Once again, there's the website over and over again, and it starts with, you go to the main website, which is www.tax.ny.gov. On the top right-hand side, there's Star registration. You just click on that icon, and then there's a place down the page where you can register. And that's pretty easy. You enter your Star code, and the website displays your property address for confirmation. Now, if there's a problem with the property address, you can edit that. If it looks too screwed up, I stop right there and call that number to make sure that it's going to go through correctly. Now this is important. you have to enter all the owners' and spouses' names and social security numbers. This is so, people say, well, how can you tell if people have, multiple homes and whatever, if they're married and, well, you can with social security numbers through taxes, through tax forms, because this is all on databases at Tax and Finance. And by the way, you don't have to do this, give this information, if you don't want your star. But I can tell you that working now at Tax and Finance for, I guess, about 3 years, your social security number is very safe there. When they were first showing us through where we'd be at Tax and Finance, one of the people from my old agency, Forbes, were walking through and she said, well, I want to show what this is like to the people that are here. And she took out her cell phone and took a picture, and they actually did jump on her and they took the camera because they had up on the screen tax forms with social security numbers. And, they're really, like my security is, it's makes me want to cry sometimes because they're so strict about it, but it's a good idea. What are they looking for and what are they asking? Is the property their primary residence? Does the individual own any other property? Receiving a residence-based benefit in another state? For instance, Florida. You shouldn't be getting both. There are a lot of states that have similar exemptions for owning residential property, primary property. You can't get both. Florida's very interested in this not happening either. It's got to be one or the other. And if you do, you will need to provide an address for such property. The other thing is you have to confirm that your total combined 2012 federal adjusted gross income, less taxable amount of total IRA distributions. That's just the format that they use for everybody to determine the income, whether you're within guidelines for STAR, of all resident owners and their spouses is not more than 500,000. Now, there are some people that, for that reason, will not be eligible. This is something the legislature in the state said, well, if your income is that much, you really shouldn't be eligible for it. It's just their decision. So if that's the case, they will be able to check that. And say you own something with 4 or 5 other people, both spouses work, that could be the case. Or like in this one case with such that Cheryl knows, some guy came in and he said, I don't make over 500,000, I make 497,000. So, and it was true. So therefore, he was eligible, but they'll check that. Then you provide your contact information so we can get in touch with you, and you certify that the information is accurate. You get a confirmation number. Make sure you take that down. Just in case, something goes wrong, although nothing ever does, right? And that way, it's like anything else where you make a reservation and you get a confirmation number, and you can use that to say, yes, I did, because I've got the number and I can look it up. So this is just most things have gone out, but we will be sending you, for those people who have not responded, we've sent letters out, but we haven't heard from people who last year on the tax rolls, on the assessment rolls rather, did have a star, but you haven't applied this year. We're going to send out more letters for those people around December 1st, and even maybe later than that or earlier than that, to make sure that you got every chance possible to apply for it. December 31st is the deadline for applying. So make sure you've done so. Don't put it off. Make it part of your Christmas list or whatever, and make sure it takes 3 minutes, take care of it. On March 1st, final notification to assessors of basic star removals. And what this means is, unlike all other exemptions, and unlike everything I've been teaching assessors for 20 years, this goes against that. I've always said the assessor is the final arbiter of whether you're eligible for the assessment or not. In this particular case, it's been taken out of the assessor's hands. They will get a list and they will be told, you know, you will run this program and that will remove these basic stars. They really don't have any control over it. Plus, you can't come into them and say this is unfair. You can't go to grievance. You now have to go, you will get a letter saying you've been denied or you didn't apply. Here's what you have to do. You have to appeal directly, and there will be a form to the Department of Tax and Finance. If you get a reply from them that you're not happy with, you can appeal to the State Board of Real Property Tax. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know what the timelines are. They're still working on some of the small details. But you can't go to your Board of Assessment Review. You can't go to the assessor because they have no control over it. And as I was saying before, if your dog has eaten the letter or you've forgotten it and you want to apply, you can go on that same website and there's something called a lookup, which is what Cheryl used. And you just go to that and you put in your information and they give you a star code so you can go through the whole process. So if you lost the letter, everything is not lost. Okay. Communications, this is what we're doing. We're trying to get this all around the state, but as usual, people have other things on their mind. This is the one thing that's a little bit different. If you're a property owner and you're moving into new property, in that case, you have a different process. You have to go through your assessor, you would fill out the regular application form by March 1st for your basic star. And then, when in 2014, we get the town's final assessment roll, we'll say, we'll run it through a database and these people will pop out, these properties, as not having had a basic star before, but now they do, and they will get a letter. Congratulations on going to the assessor and doing what you should have done. However, if you want to get star, you have to go through the same process that everybody else has gone through, and go on the website or call. And then you'll be in with everybody else. And once you're in, we shouldn't be bothering you again. You won't have to do this. Because now we'll have the information. Things change. Your income goes up of over 500,000. In that case, we don't care about the basic star anyhow. So, some people do. But, yeah, we'll be able to access that without you having to do anything. And this is just our website, the number to call, and there's an email address, and that's all in the packets that I pass out to you, all this information. So, any questions? Yes?
Can you verify that you've registered by going to the website? My
No.
husband doesn't always tell me what he's up to.
Oh, well, that could be a problem. It doesn't hurt, I've been told, if you register again.
Okay.
Just to make sure that he did it the right way. Yeah. But no, you don't. You get a confirmation number. You can call up with the confirmation number and say, you know, I just want to make sure that you've got this on file. If you don't get a confirmation number, then that is a problem. Okay, anything else?
Okay. Any questions? I think that runs through it. I appreciate you coming down because I think
Sure.
this is very important. I know we've been talking about to pass this information along, so I think it's important. Okay, you want to do some order? Okay.
We used to have a deadline of March 1st, but now it's December 1st. Or
December 31st.
Your deadline is December 31st now? It used to
Yes,
be
it is.
March 1st?
It's December 31st for you to apply. On March 1st, Cheryl's going to get a list of people that have to be taken off. And it's actually going to be a computer file that she'll run, that will do that automatically. Those people will then get letters telling them that their star exemption has been removed. Here's what you need to do if you don't agree with that.
For new property owners, you still have until the 31st.
Yeah, no,
No?
new property owners, you have until month of confusion, because that is different. Then they will get something in probably August or late July from the state saying, hey, it's great, but you gotta register with us on the web.
So anybody that doesn't register by the 31st, they're out for that year.
That's right, as far as I know at this point.
But they can apply for the following year.
For the following year, they can apply.
To the assessor or to you?
No, they'll be applying through the website again.
Okay.
And just to remind everybody again, anybody receiving or applying for Enhanced Star, that does not go through the
Right.
web. That still goes to the assessor. Enhanced Star Seniors goes through the assessor, so that's the only thing that should be going through her.
But if you're turning 65 and you've gotten a letter from the state about reapplying for the basic because that's what you've had, go ahead and do that. Then you go in and see Cheryl, if you're eligible for the enhanced, that should automatically override the basic. So, but don't just say, well, I'm gonna be 65, so it doesn't matter. This is fail-safe. Make sure that you've got a star exemption.
Okay. All right, thanks again. I appreciate the
Thank you.
presentation. Okay, let's move on. Approval, prior town board minutes.
So moved.
We have two sets of meeting minutes. First set is the town board meeting from the 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second set is our budget workshop we held on September 23rd. Any discussion, questions, comments? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Communications to the board. We'll start out with the report, clerk report. All right, please.
That's right. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Town clerk's report for September 2013. Dog licensing, $37.50. Town clerk fees for vital statistics, marriage licenses, $17.50. Certified copies, $100. Decals, hunting and fishing, $31.40. Miscellaneous permits, $25. Total check for the general fund, $211.40. Dog surcharges to the state, $15. New York State Department of Health for marriage license, $22.50. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, $538.60. A lot of hunting licenses. Total for the month, $787.50.
$211. Okay.
$211.40.
Motion to accept the clerk report.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Ed?
Opposed? Carried.
Nosy. Can't tell.
Okay, mail review. What do we have?
The only thing I have, and copies are on the table up front, is from Columbia County Office for the Aging, the Elder Express. And copies are on the table. That's all I have.
What's that? Wait, we don't know. Correspondence for the web committee. Any questions, comments, suggestions for the web person committee? We only have about one now. I don't think there's any issues going on with the web.
We've gotten a couple more emails with people offering to sell us ClermontNewYork.com, which I don't think we're interested in.
No.
But they keep sending them.
Okay. All right. All right, we'll move on. Move on to the committee reports, updates. Go with Ed.
Waiting to hear from the Hover Fund. I kind of strange because I filled out the application a while ago.
Let me hold you up right there.
Sure.
I saw Hank Emmerich this morning, and
Okay.
he told me that they approved the application
Okay.
from the Hover Fund, and they will be allotting $5,000 to the swing set project.
Awesome.
So they granted the $5,000. So I want to
Good.
thank you and Mary for working on that and getting that through, and thank Hank, thank them especially. Hank helped out with a lot of that in the Hover Fund for that $5,000 donation. So
Okay.
it's
It was a
excellent.
little
I just found out this morning. I started to get a hold of you.
No, that's great because there was a little confusion with that. I had numerous phone calls that were conflicting, but it doesn't matter now.
Well, it went through and they took care of it, so they will be receiving a check either
Great.
this week to drop it off in there.
Great.
Excellent.
On another note, Mary and I have gotten together to discuss grants, of course. It was brought to my attention that the state is redoing their application process right now, and it's very difficult to even apply for these grants through the state. But the funds, such as the Hover Fund, I do understand feelings from the Taconic Farms has a fund. These process of getting funding through these funds is going to be a lot easier, and we're looking at pursuing that. And if we set up a workshop in the very near future, Mary and I have talked about possibly, through the board, having a partnership, sort of like a quasi-government partnership, sort of like the Federal Reserve type of thing, where the town would partner with a fund to apply for money, because a lot of these monies won't go to isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary. 501c3. It's a lot easier to get the money than a municipal. But if we partner with a 501c3 where they do the application and then grant us that money, everybody wins. We get the money we need for our, it's just getting a little creative here. If we'll get the money we need for our projects, when grants usually have strings attached, there'll be really no strings attached here. And the fund will get their tax benefits out of it at the same time. So we would have to talk about this in a workshop, probably consult with Andy on the legalities of it, and see if we can approach it from that angle.
That'd be an excellent thing to pursue, and we're gonna set up a workshop later this month to talk about some
Yeah,
things.
and this is Mary's idea is brilliant, so I hope it works.
Excellent.
We'll set that date now? We had talked about it.
We can do that. Why don't we do that? Set that date ahead of time,
think we
for
had-
budget workshop and for the park, we're gonna do both. We're gonna recap the budget numbers as well. We'll do everything in that workshop. I'd like to set that up for September 21st, or excuse me, October 21st. I'm going backwards. October 21st, which is a Monday night. I think we decided that was probably the best night that worked best for all of us at 7 p.m. So that'll be a budget workshop to review the budget, final budget numbers, and to work on the park numbers, and we'll go over the park. And we'll talk about that 503, 501c3. Okay, excellent. No, that's a great idea, and I think that might absolutely help us get access to some more funds a little easier,
Yeah.
so, great. Okay. All right. Bob?
Just a couple of things. Last month, we passed to do some work in the park parking lot area. Jimmy did go through and put the gravel out there and actually did a great job on it. And then a few days later, somebody went through, spin it around and tore it up a little bit. But I think they've raked it out since, again. We've also had some people going over through the back of our property and actually onto the neighbor's property and clearing out an area to put in a barbecue pit or something and dug it out. And she put up a posted sign and took the stuff out of there, so. We may want to talk about some of that when we do our workshop on the park also. We did not do the other piece that we had approved because it looks like we're gonna have to bid that because the material is not on state bid. And with the amount, we're gonna have to bid, I think I just kind of wait till we have our meeting and workshop and talk about all the stuff that we're doing there. But it looks like we're getting the funding with the Homer Fund, and I know we've got some people that have indicated they will donate. So it may end up being springtime by the time early spring when we put the swings in, but we'll go through all of that in the workshop. I also talked to Andy a little bit today that the easement that's supposed to be put on that Hetling property, he's still looking to get some of the work for that, the title and all, and he's still pushing on that. I know Ray's been after him also to get that done, but we're still waiting on it. And I did talk with him also about whether we had to bid the amount, because there's a larger amount if it's a public works project, but we're looking at doing the installation ourselves, so it's buying materials as opposed to a public works contract. So we will have to bid that out. But we'll wait till after we have our workshop.
Okay. Good, thank you, Bob. Evan, you have anything you wanna?
Nothing to declare at this time.
Okay. Nancy, you have anything?
No, nothing right here.
All right. Okay, this is gonna be pretty quick tonight because I don't have a lot to update everybody on. Unfortunately, I keep saying every month I'm gonna have the bridge numbers, the bridge reports in. The report is supposedly in, but I haven't been able to schedule a meeting with the department, DPW, Dave Robinson or Dean Knox, which is in engineering for the bridges, myself and Kevin McDonald, the town supervisor of Livingston. We've been unable to get coordinated to get together and review this report and go over the numbers. It's budget season in the county, so a lot of their time is tied up as well, so it's been very hectic the last couple, 3 weeks here. So I have a meeting tomorrow with Dave Robinson, and I will certainly be following up on this report, but unfortunately I don't have anything for tonight to go over the numbers. So as soon as I get this information, I'll pass it along to the board, and we'll have to wait until next month for an update as far as the public. Data collection, pretty much summed that up in the report tonight. It is almost complete. I think one parcel, I think she said you had left. Finally have all the data collection done, but it has to be inputted, so there is going to be a lot of work still for her to do, for Cheryl to do. But the field work, going around getting the initial pictures and all the information that has been completed. So we are on schedule. It has been a tight schedule because of Cheryl coming in. She had to take over all these duties of the assessor a little bit earlier than she thought she would have to because of the passing of Hank. But she's been doing a great job, and she's on track with with what the state expects. So we are in pretty good shape on this, and the county is also going to help out with evaluations. We do have a valuation specialist in the county, which will help us do the valuations on the properties and assist her in moving forward to finish this process up. So it's going along, good. Let's put it this way. We're on schedule. So audit is another thing. We were supposed to have the audit report. Me and Mary met with the auditor 2 weeks ago. He was here. We buttoned up a couple loose ends questions. I asked him, I says, listen, is this thing almost done? It's been, how many months here? And he says, yes, I'm just gonna finish this up. I'll put this together and I'll have it to you. I says, I really want it for a meeting. Told him the date. He says, no problem. Well, I called him today saying, where's my, the report, the draft report? He was out sick all last week, so he didn't get a chance to finalize it. He does have the draft put together. He said he could email it to me either tomorrow or the next day when he's in the office, but it doesn't help us for tonight. There's no information in there that's gonna be a surprise. I mean, it's a couple minor forms that we didn't fill out, nothing with, no issues with money. So I'm encouraged to see this report because I think it's gonna be a good report to sum up the financials for the town that are in good shape. And but again, I don't have it yet. I expected to have it in the past 2 months. So as soon as I get it, I will be receiving an email version, which I will be able to forward on to the board as soon as I do get it, probably this coming week. And then we'll discuss it at the next meeting. go over it. The budget workshop, we set the date, I called it a budget workshop. We had a budget, let's back up. We had a budget workshop last month. We went through, created a tentative budget. I guess we could just highlight a few things out of it. Really no big surprises in the budget this year. We are reducing the overall town budget from $611,881 to $599,299. We're going down about $12,000. Most of that, all of that is the fact that we budgeted for data collection this past year, which was $20,000. So taking that out, we actually increased a little bit of spending over the previous budget. Most of that's probably going towards raises. We decided as a board that we were going to allow a 3% raise for most of the employees, which aren't very many in the town, which do not include planning board, zoning board, town board members. But the raises would go to the highway superintendent, the two highway guys, our clerk, the judges, tax collector, who else?
Building inspector.
Building inspector, I said court clerk, pretty much everybody except for the town board members, the planning board members, and the zoning board members, and the assessor. The assessors obviously made that increase earlier in the year, so there's no increase in their salary, or the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper stays the same as well. So we did allow for a 3% raise. Since last year we gave no raises. We figured, 3% this year. If you average it out, it's 1.5% over each year. So. Other than that, there's no real big changes in it. The tentative budget is available for people that would like. The clerk has it. We will be having the workshop. We had set a date for the next workshop on the 21st to review the park and final numbers on the budget, to finalize and tweak the numbers after we see the next revenue predictions that come in, and we'll make those adjustments at that point, and then set the public hearing for. Well, we do need to set the public hearing for our next board meeting, before our next board meeting. So I guess we could set that date now.
It is for our next board meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna set a public hearing for the budget. We might as well set the date, which is November 4th, is our next town board meeting, and we might as well do, I think we should do 6:30, give time for anybody that has any questions or comments on that. We do have a couple things we do need to look at as far as the budget when it comes just to finalizing the numbers. I did get notification on the mortgage tax. It was one of the pieces of the puzzle I was waiting to see. I was notified that our mortgage tax revenue was coming in around $34,000 for the second payment, which is great news because we only budgeted $35,000 for the year. So the first payment of $17,000, I think it was roughly, puts us well over what we budgeted. Mortgage tax was up throughout the county this year. A lot to do with, I think, the reduced rates. Everybody was refinancing. So there's a lot of people refinancing, a lot of mortgage tax being put on the books. I don't know if we can count on that to continue. I don't know if that was the bulk of it. So I think we'll take a look at the revenues when we go back through the budget again. I don't want to overestimate the revenues either. So well, let's look at that when we see the other sales tax number come in. We'll kind of try and get a feel for it at our next workshop. Other than that, sales tax revenue is right on track for what we predicted, and those are the two major players in our revenue stream. So that's what we have to take into account. We're predicting our budgets off of basically mortgage tax and sales tax revenue from the county. So we'll have the third quarter payment number by the time we have the next workshop, which will help us predict what we'll receive. So we'll finalize those numbers at the next workshop. Budget, I just mentioned that. Star exemptions, this is important for people to do, but I have to question, how much money do we really think they're gonna save once they hire all these temporary people, all right? They do all these mailings, all this postage, and you find out all these people that haven't been collecting enhanced that are gonna finally start collecting enhanced. I think it's gonna be a wash, so I really have a hard time believing they think this is gonna save money, but it's very important that everybody does, file, refile. I don't want anybody to lose their exemption because that's over paperwork. So, this is very important that people realize this. And hopefully with all the efforts that have been made, the mailings, numerous conversations, people will realize that they have to have to get this filed, so.
It may save a little bit over the long term, because you're not gonna be getting people that are getting two-star exemptions if they have a house down in the city and a house up here, or a house in Florida or something.
One would hope all this effort
Yeah.
leads to some kind
I
of.
mean, I agree, I don't think it's gonna save a whole lot the first year,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. It's the state, they know what they're doing. Okay, supervisor's report. Just a couple things to update. Just want to make sure we mentioned that the painting has been completed. The second coat painting has been completed on the back of the town, Academy building. The vouchers in there, we all signed it, $650 for a second coat on the back of the building. It was very reasonable. We approved it last month and it's been completed. So I think it looks much better. It definitely needed that coat. Now we can look at next year, maybe painting the other three sides, and then the building is going to be completely painted and good moving forward for hopefully several years. But that's something we'll talk about going forward. I want to remind everybody that we have the Election Day dinner coming up next month. So before our next meeting, obviously we can't advertise for it then, so I want to make sure point it out that the Election Day dinner will be taking place next door. I really feel terrible because I don't have the information in front of me. Do you know the times?
I don't know if I have it inside, but I do have it on the board outside.
All right,
5 to 7. I
Yeah.
5 to
believe.
7?
5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Desserts and all kinds of good.
Right, if you don't come for dinner, you can just come for
You
dessert and
can just
coffee.
get dessert and
This-
coffee, or
right, dessert
have
and
dinners to
coffee.
take out.
And take out.
Yes,
Takeout is
takeout.
available as well.
It's on our website,
Yes, the election inspectors get a plate.
yes.
So obviously, hopefully everybody will come out and vote. If you do, please stop by, have a dinner, have a coffee, have a dessert. Stop in and talk to some neighbors, but stop by. Okay. The county, courthouse project in the county is progressing well. We finally got past all the snags with the asbestos abatement. Project underway. It's probably, I think they said 60 to 70% complete. I think there's quite a bit of work to do there yet, but they're bringing in more help, more laborers. I mean, I think they'll be on track still for January completion. It's coming along very nicely. It's going to be a very nice addition on that courthouse, and we still will be we're on budget, and we should come in under the $10 million. We will come in under the $10 million budget for this project overall. So I think it's it's going to be very beautiful, and I can't wait to see the finished product. Again, they keep saying, it's only done every 100 years, so let's do it right. So, and they're right. I mean, there's no sense to try to cut corners on something that's not going to be touched, and it's going to be there for the next 100 years. Pine Haven is still working on that. There's no real new update on that. We've had a couple meetings on the placement of the Pine Haven home. The project is still moving forward. There's been a lot of interest in trying to move off of the site that was originally picked, which was on the back side, top of a hill. Now they're concentrating their efforts on moving the new home closer to the existing site, next to the existing home, but on virgin ground where it would be a stacked unit. It'd be, instead of sprawled out with 6 different wings, there'd be 3 wings on one floor, and the second floor would have 3 wings. It's a way to cut costs on site development, and it is much easier to access the closer site for utilities, and saves from putting a driveway over top of a ravine. It's quite a bit less as far as site development. So that's what we're keying on now, looking at that, trying to get the numbers together to see if that's, if that can fit in the budget we're allotted, because it has to come in the budget and the cap that's available for the spending of this project. So that's where we're at this point. There's not a whole lot of new information on that. The actual development design is the same, it's just stacked instead of sprawled out. So it's still basically the same thing that was designed originally, except for its stacked unit. Let's see, bridges and roads. Bridges, we're waiting for our bridge. We are putting together some numbers, and actually tomorrow afternoon there's my budget meeting with engineering and roads. An overall scope of projects that are going to need to be done in the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. We're trying to put out all the roads and bridges on a laid-out project list and look at the long-term costs that we're looking at. And the numbers are staggering. Over the next, I think, 20-year schedule is almost $100 million of road and bridge work needed to maintain the infrastructure that we have. Unfortunately, the past several years, the money in the road fund has been diminished down to, I think, $1.5 million for repairs and paving to do the entire county. And you know, if you know what the road work costs, I mean, it's just nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. It should be about $6 million a year. But obviously, with the budgets the way they are, the county has tried to keep the spending down. They reduced the money down. It's going into the roads, and we're starting to pay for it year after year. So this past year, we put an extra $1 million in, so it's $2.5 million for this past year. And we're probably going to try and do the same for next year and try to work in a little bit extra each year to try to get these roads back up to roads and bridges back up to where they should be. But you know, with $1.5 million, you just can't keep up on the roads. So it's something that we've been fighting for years, and we'll continue to try to work it in without burdening the taxpayers on increasing taxes. It's difficult. I mean, the cost of paving, blacktop, everything goes up. It just, you know what the costs of stuff are. It's just hard to do. And the county has, I forget the amount of roads, I should know that, but I forgot the total amount of roads throughout the county, but there's a lot of center lane miles, and we have a tremendous amount of bridges, and it's just, they're big ticket items, and it costs a lot to repair these. Oh, what else is going on? The cha we voted to sell a few months back. I just had a meeting today, as a matter of fact. That was another budget meeting this morning I was in for the health department, and about blew my mind to find out that we voted to sell the cha, and I know there's going to be a transition over the next year. It's going to happen, but we have our director of mental health is telling us that she has nurses there now. We have 5 customers left in the cha, and she has nurses there doing absolutely nothing and stuffing envelopes because she can't find any work for them. But the unions will not allow us to eliminate any positions because of the arrangement that was made. And I think you're going to see at the next meeting, our committee meeting, I'm going to make a motion that we turn around and nobody wants to lay people off, but we're cutting positions, we're not filling positions, we're eliminating programs, or possibly might eliminate programs that people need, but yet we can't get rid of people that are doing nothing, and that really aggravates me. So at the next meeting, I'm going to be bringing forward that we push a resolution to allow the health director to advise us how many positions are doing nothing that she does not need, and that we should follow through with at least laying off 2, 3, 4 people, nurses that we do not need. I think it's crazy that they can sit there for the last few months and probably the next 6 months, if nothing is done, and collect the salary for doing nothing. That is something, we decided to move on this because we needed to cut costs and save money. We were losing money hand over fist with the cha, and then now we're still employing the same amount of people. It makes no sense. So you'll probably read this in the paper from next week's meeting, but I will be pushing this issue that we need to act on this, and sooner rather than later. What else? I guess that's it. That's all I can think of right now. I guess move on to motion of the abstract.
Move that we pay highway abstract number 10, vouchers number 96 through 108, in the amount of $12,358.90.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
One second.
I make a motion to pay general abstract number 10, vouchers number, I'm sorry, we got that written there? Here we go. 246 through 272 for a grand total of $11,353.36.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. One thing I forgot to mention, and Bob said this earlier, we did have somebody go in on the ballpark, not on the ballpark, in the parking lot of the ballpark, town park over here, and do some donuts in the parking area that was just redone. And I just would like to ask, I know this is on TV, and anybody that knows anything about this, anybody that's has seen anybody doing this, or seen a car they think might be doing this, to please keep their eyes open, especially if you're in a neighborhood, to alert, me, the town board, the sheriff, if you see something like this going on, or something suspicious in the park, because we certainly will be prosecuting whoever we find that's doing this, because it is tearing up, the work that the highway guys are doing. And we can't have this continue, so we will be watching, and hopefully somebody will help us out and keep their eyes open as well, so. Okay, public communications. Any public comments, communications from the board? We lost our only comment.
He probably will be very angry if he doesn't get his opportunity.
Well, would you like to go ask him if you'd like to have a public comment? We have a gentleman here that came in to
Specifically, comment.
have public comment. Public comment, you're the only taker, so we had to come get you.
My name is Cornelius Hageman. I live over here on 9G. I own the land backing up onto County Route 6. I've got a 3,200-pound bull on my property with claw marks in its rib cage from a big cat that was on its back. The DEC 5 years ago told me there were no mountain lions in New York, there are no mountain lions in New York, and by the way, it wasn't on your property. And if you shoot it, we will arrest you. 5 days later, it was shot at Clermont Horse Farm by workers there. 45 minutes later, without being called, the DEC showed up and tried to arrest the workers, but the vet who was sewing up the $375,000 thoroughbred intervened and started taking DNA samples from the cat. All of a sudden, the DEC officer backed up and said, "We'll take the cat and let this go." Now, I'm sorry. I just had to sell off my cows. About 3.5 weeks ago, I had a calf killed. The tooth marks where the spine was crushed, one is as long as my finger, the other is about 1/3. That means it's got a broken canine. That means it can't hunt wild game. This is a real dangerous animal. Now it's been thrown off my bull, and that means my bull probably did a lot of damage to this cat. I'm sorry, this is a dangerous animal. I talked to the state police about it, and they asked if I wanted to talk to the DEC, and I said no, because all they're going to do is lie to me. And I'm asking you to take this to the county, because all they're doing is lying to us. This cat was seen over on Moore Road, probably the first week of September. I don't know where it is now. I don't even know if it's alive. But I used to watch the people with the monitor sit at the end of County Route 6 and 9G with their little satellite tracking monitor. Now I'm sure they've got something smaller now, because this was 5-6 years ago. Look, I come from up north. I know what bears are. I know what fishers are. A mountain lion is something that stays 30 feet off a game trail and kills by ambush. This will kill children. It will kill joggers. It is a dangerous animal. As I understand it, the DEC releases them. They buy nuisance cats out west and release them. They deny it, they deny it, they deny it. I've been told this too many times for it not to believe it. 5 years ago, as I understand, they killed 2 in Claverack, 1 in Ankrum, which they arrested the person who killed it because he was claiming self-defense. The one over here at Clermont Farm, and I'm told 1 was killed in Stuyvesant. I'm sorry, this is wrong. We're an agricultural district. These are animals that if they were in the mountains, they cache their food up in trees. They'll kill once every 2 weeks. At this altitude in the summertime, we have a lot of flies, a lot of maggots. This means they have to kill every 48 hours. I don't know if you looked at the post office 5 years ago, But if you went to the post office in Germantown, you'll have had 50 or 60 postings on the wall for missing dogs. Because dogs and coyotes are its first choice of food. I'm sorry, this is wrong. And I feel I have no recourse, none. I have a bull that's crazy that I can't load. I've gotten rid of the cows. I got 50 cents on the dollar for 1,900. I got $500 for $2,000 animals. Purebred, freshened cows. They stopped eating, they got sick. They went for 500 bucks. These are normally $2,000 animals. My bull, he's lost about 400 pounds. Now the $1 a pound, what am I losing? Now every day I can't load them, I can't get them to auction. I keep losing more money. I'm being put out of business again. The last time it was 8 red Angora goats. And they said if I could prove a mountain lion had killed them, they would pay me $90 a goat. A red Angora goat is worth about $5 grand. You know I'm a small guy. I know I can't go to court of claims and pursue this. I'm a small guy and all I'm gonna do is get stepped on. But I'm asking you to take it to the county. I'm asking you to call these guys in. And if you can put them under oath, put them under oath. Because I'm told they will lie to you.
I can attest that I bear witness to a cat on my own property 6 years ago with my 5-year-old. And about 4 years ago, we counted 15 to 20 deer carcasses all littered on my property. They didn't come there just to die. I know there's cats in the area. People say I'm nuts, but I've seen it myself.
Well, there are a few Canada lynx up in Germantown, and there are bobcats, and bobcats will take young deer, they won't take full grown.
No.
Canada lynx should take most things, but the span from claw mark to claw mark in the sides of my bull, and if you care to come there and take a look at it, is almost 5 feet around.
They're
From
big.
claw mark to claw mark. Now, if you come up one arm and down the other, a Canada lynx ain't that big.
No, it wouldn't attack a bull. Normally.
This was on its back, but that bull is 3,200 pounds. Its teeth aren't long enough to even reach the spine.
Have you contacted the state legislature on this?
What's the point?
Well,
Have you tried?
why don't you see me afterwards and I'll see what I can do for you.
I mean, I look at these legislators we have here now, and I'm
No,
sorry, I have no faith.
I understand.
I'll see you
I
afterwards.
can't disagree with you, but see me afterwards. Let me see what I can do to help you out.
I'll talk to you afterwards, but as county, the reason I'm saying this is if you have a wounded animal, you think it won't go after a child? That's why they killed the one down here in Connecticut, because it was stalking in grade school. 200 years ago, these things were eliminated. They were eliminated for a reason. When a mountain lion showed up because they used child labor on the farms, they basically had a militia call out and everybody hunted it till it was dead. Because these things are truly wild and truly dangerous. And I love nature, but when you put this in an agricultural district in populated areas, you know, these things have a range of almost 100 square miles. Yep. I can show you where the den was for the last one over here in Clermont State Historic Site. The reason is you can see it from Greg Plum's property in Dutchess County, looking across the county line. It's about 3.5, 4 foot up in a tree that's about yay big around, and you'd see the claw marks of it going up into the den. These, they can tell me what they want. I've seen it. If you don't believe me about it, ask Eli Feeser. Ask the town deputy. He's seen it 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
And he's given them a hard time about lying about it to us. Because I was there when he did. Because he said, oh, there's none in New York State. Well, what about the 3 I've seen?
Well, I'll certainly, I'll see what I can do. I'll ask some questions, find out what kind of help we can get on this. I don't know. I mean, I've never dealt with this particular issue.
Look, I'm not gonna get reimbursed even under the Endangered Species Act. Wouldn't make me whole.
All right.
Not even close. Look, I'm a small farm. I have to make $10,000 to get the agricultural exemption. You don't do that by raising for meat. You raise it by raising for genetics. You raise it with specialty animals. You raise it doing specialty work. You don't do this by raising an Angus for beef.
All right.
I'm out of business again. I gotta start again.
I'll
If I
certainly-
can.
I'll certainly see what I can find out for you, to see what we can do.
Thank you.
But, sure. Okay, any other questions, comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who's second?